Welcome back to the Valley to Peak Nutrition Podcast. This week I am joined by a former client of ours named Becki. One of the reasons I felt like Becki would be a great person to have on is because the scenario that she outlines and when she had reached out to us is one that we hear so often, particularly from women, which is that there are certain periods of life, certain stages of life that are automatically going to mean that you can no longer accomplish your nutrition goals, your fitness goals, your training goals. It's almost like you've been dealt a bad hand of cards, and whatever hand that is the hand you've got to play, and that's as good as it gets. We knew that that probably wasn't true, but we weren't exactly sure why she wasn't seeing what she was hoping to see in spite of her giving just about every effort that she could give. So she does a really great job articulating and walking through those different stages in terms of through the lens of what she had done that had previously not worked, what she found out as to why it didn't work, and what she worked on so that it did begin to work. And so obviously it would make you think that this is only for women, but that is not necessarily true because exactly what she did to find some progress in her own goals is what we also find that men generally struggle with too. So the same different points that we hit on have a direct tie to men too. And so we hear the same story from men through the context of when they hit a certain age, different hormonal shifts, whether that's testosterone or any of the other hormones that are starting to grow in popularity for lab values. If any of those test low, then all of a sudden that makes them like a candidate for being unable to achieve any goals that they have. Now, there's always more than meets the story, but we also found for the most part that's not true. You do have to make adjustments, but still it can be accomplished. And so this is a great story of how no matter what, you've been told, there's always things that you can do to work around some of that. So appreciate Becki joining, and you're going to hear her story. I think the best place to always start is to introduce yourself and nothing to do with this at all. Just that you're a normal person like the rest of us and what you do for hobbies. And it can be helpful to mention like, well, how did you two know each other? What made you, reach out to him just so the listener can draw a reference point as far as how we got connected. And then we'll kind of break it up into the three phases, the audit, the goal, and the maintenance phase, and just talk about experience that you had in each and things that were easy, good, hard, whatever, and go from there.
Okay.
So who are you?
I am Becki Honner. I work at an art gallery in sales and logistics in Livingston, Montana. I in my free time I'm very active, love the outdoors, trail running, rock climbing, recently started hunting, and my husband works for Mountain Tough, and that's how I got connected with you.
How did your hunting season go?
This one was not personally. Only went out, had time for one day. And um last year I shot a doe and a buck in a weekend. And the doe was the first one. I was just excited and happy that I didn't injure her and it was down. The buck, I watched, it was a little bit farther away, and I watched him go down in my binoculars, and I got really sad. Um,
Yeah.
it's a feeling I just never experienced, of,
Yeah.
that sad is the right word, and I was grateful, and, um, this year, I didn't know if I would want to it's like, "Do I wanna do this? We need meat," and that kind of was the driving force behind, "Okay, I'm gonna do this." Um, but I had an opportunity for a buck, and I closed my eyes, and my husband said after, he said, I told him I closed my eyes because I didn't wanna see it go down." but I missed, and it was like 50 yards. It was and then we continued on, and I think we hunted 2 days, and I didn't have another opportunity, so,
Yeah.
uh
Do you, this may be a bad word, but do you regret doing that? Like in hindsight, now that you're at home and you've lived through that experience, do you wish that you would have just taken advantage of the opportunity, or are you in hindsight glad that it didn't work out?
I regret that I didn't. I played it I so it was a day that does not usually happen where there was activity around every corner, and I also wasn't prepared for that. I think I learned a lot because I think we saw 12 deer, some fawns and does, and, oh, there's this great buck, he saw us and so, the one I shot at also was we just came over a ridge and he was right there. But I think in my head, I thought there will be more opportunity because we just keep seeing them. And then the next day we went out. So the more the day went on, the next day went on, I started kicking myself and was like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh.
I think I think that's normal, right? I mean, in fact, my first exposure to hunting, eating wild game was at my in-laws' house when I first met my wife. I didn't grow up doing it or anything. And, they, in a very encouraging, non-pushy way, sort of asked if I'd ever be interested in doing something like that. And I really had to think a long time about what would that feel like? Would I be able to and be okay with taking the life of an animal, And yeah, I went through this long decision making process. Like, I don't know if I've ever actually shared this long decision making process that led to me feeling like I would be, for one, it feeds my family. For
Mhm.
two, the circle of life happens in nature. And if it's not me, it's going to be someone else and or some other wild thing, and part of conservation and management is hunting, and so if that's the case and I can provide enough for my family, why not me? But we've sort of the podcast started with hunters, but has definitely started to include some non-hunting people who are interested in the outdoors. And I think it's just a great example of two people who do actively hunt and enjoy it and provide meat for their family, who still have a hard time knowing something else is not living, as
Mm,
the byproduct of your decision, while you are still grateful for it, you use the meat. It's not like my perception growing up of hunters was they're bloodthirsty and just love shooting
yeah.
stuff.
Yep.
And I don't think I actually know anybody who
Mhm.
is that way. So I think it's great that you are open to, talking about it and trying to decide, is this something I want to continue on with? And then finding out, yeah, yeah, it is. And these are the reasons why. Because
Yeah.
you did a big, and obviously we're going to get into your story, but you did a big relay too this summer,
Mhm.
right? What was that?
It was the Headwaters Relay. It's somewhere around 230 miles, and you can have a team, I it's 6 to 10 people. Um, and we ended up, I think on day 2, my husband hurt himself, and he is the strong runner of the group. So we didn't end up finishing it. I think we were 25 or 30 miles short. Our team went way farther than we thought, "Okay, we're just gonna finish this day," but we woke up on day 3, went out. The legs that we did not do is so this goes from, um, Three Forks, Montana, almost to the Idaho border, and the last day, you end up finishing the day in miles and miles of 3 to 4 inches of sand that you're running through.
Yeah.
We ditched as soon as we got to the sand legs, we're like, "Let's just call it and go." We did really well having I think we had ended up having 6 people with him out.
Yeah. I like highlighting that because I think it's a good preface into your story. And one reason I thought you would be such a great person to have on is because I hate this word, but we'll use it. your path or your journey is very exemplary of what a lot of people go through when they hit our age, right? Call our age anywhere between, and I have no idea how old you are right now because I don't have it in front of me, but anywhere between 35 and 50, let's say, right? Which is basically earmarked by this idea of either age, hormones, combination of both, life, whatever, puts us in this category that makes us think that anything we do will not be enough to move the barometer on our fitness or on our nutrition or on our goals at all.
Right.
I'd love to kind of split this into three parts, which is the three parts that we worked on, which is like an audit phase, a goal phase, and a maintenance phase. What what had you tried to that point of like whenever we finally did end up starting to work together? What had you tried to that point, and what was sort of the catalyst that led to you reaching out and feeling like, in spite of all these efforts and me not seeing anything, something just has to be wrong? And as a part of that, I know I'm throwing a lot at you, so I can circle back to these, but as a part of that, what had you been told to that point and or believed that made this so difficult?
Yeah. So I don't know how far back you want me to start, but I feel like historically I've always been active. I was born this. I just have wiggles, needed outside as a kid. That part, my training, having Mountain Tough as part of this programming and training that I was doing, I've always worked out probably 4 days a week. I've go through seasons of running and lifting and, but always moving. And I could do so in the past, I would do paleo, or no sugar, low sugar, always restrictive, some version, and I would lose 5 pounds or whatever that little bit of uncomfortable, um, easily. And I ended up and I feel like it's a combination of I had twins, I was, I lost that weight pretty easily in that first year after I had my boys was kind of back to normal, and then a couple years later, I had gotten a divorce. I the next month, my mom died almost to the day, and then the next month after that, I tore my ACL. Um, Ended up having to go back, I went back to work, I was staying at home, and then, it ended up being more of a stressful job than I thought and a desk job. And meanwhile, I'm nearing 40 years old, and trying all of the tricks. I literally had multiple practitioners, naturopaths who say, "Oh, you're just at that age, like, that's just kind of accept it, basically. This is just how it," So I'd really tried mentally to be, like, comfortable, like, "Okay, I'm gonna be still be healthy and active and just lean into, like, this is just my new normal." Um, but I wasn't okay with that. I just was like, "This isn't making sense." I don't think it's healthy. I feel like just from, like, an biological standpoint point, it's not healthy. I was probably, like, 12 to 15 pounds that I would be heavier than what I was from before, and really, um then thought like, "Oh, I just have to embrace being at a desk, and this is just what happens." And, took me, I think, just being so uncomfortable. I feel like moving was uncomfortable when I was in yoga class, or, I ended up with a bulged disc, and I just felt like an old lady, and I was like, "I'm really not. 40 is not I am too young to be feeling this way." Um, and I wanna be able to move in the mountains and still go trail run and do all of those things. So, um, I tried macros eventually. I tried the paleo thing, like, so many times, but I would do everything for, like, 4 to 6 weeks and not see any changes. And then I think it was 2 or 3 years that I did that until finally I got to that, like, I'm not buying a whole new size of clothing, and something needs to change. Um, in the meanwhile, it was actually almost a year ago at the Mountain Tough Christmas party, I saw, ran into Sarah, who was one of you worked with her, I don't know if last year you worked with her, and she and I had the same talk, like, she said, "I've been working with Kyle." I think we just started talking about nutrition and protein and our age and hormones, and she had said she worked with you, and so the one thing she told me was, "Your body doesn't even know what you're trying to do when you make a change for 4 to 8 weeks." Like, push it out to 8 weeks and just keep doing your thing, and it takes a while for it to adjust and realize what you're trying to do.
Were you when you finally did, kind of reach out, were you half expecting me to just tell you the same thing that you had heard before from other people? Or maybe a better question would be like, what were you expecting me to say? What did you think you were
Yeah.
getting yourself into?
Yeah. I feel like because of the wellness warfare on, like Instagram will tell you these are all the things you need to do, and these are you need this many protein, grams of protein, and you'll see 7 different numbers if you go to 7 different influencers. And I think because I trusted Sarah and I trust Mountain Tough, I really was like, I just need someone to tell me accurate information that's up to date, that has some expertise in the background in nutrition versus doom scrolling through all the noise, telling me all the things, and it really isn't personalized.
Yeah. One thing that you said that I think is important is I think that when people hear, weight loss or fat loss or whatever, there's always this scale association tied to it. But what I've found in working with people is that generally there's a feeling attached to that weight that they don't like. And so people may look at someone and that person may not look or seem like they're just, you know, clearly in poor health and overweight, and it just they look fairly healthy and like they're at a fairly healthy weight. And so when that happens and that person then says, "Oh, I'd like to lose 10 or 15 pounds," it's generally written off like, "Oh, well, you don't need to lose that. You look great, whatever." But what I have found in the years of doing this, and like you just said perfectly, they don't feel good for one reason or another at that weight. It has nothing to do about their confidence in how they look in dress slacks or how they look in a dress or how they, whatever. It generally has something to do with the way that they feel, right? And
Mhm.
and 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 like you had said, what does that mean for overall health? And so I think that's an important piece of it is it's not always like this you're so far gone that it's obvious to everybody and life-changing type of a deal. Sometimes it is you personally don't feel good doing daily things, and that is a catalyst that kind of pushes you in that direction.
Right.
We like the very first thing that we do with everyone is the audit, right? Which the audit is designed to do two things. Number one, it's designed to get an idea of what it is that you like, but also it's designed to try to figure out why have your efforts not paid off to this point, and then build some structure out of that. Was there anything in when you did that audit, was there anything that stood out to you or you were kind of like, oh, I had no idea?
Yes. I pretty quickly I know when we went into it, you said, "Don't change anything. Just eat how you eat, do what you're doing, and record it." I wasn't measuring at this point, just recording. And I chose different portions. I saw the amount of fat that were with my paleo background, I think it was pretty quick that I learned, "Oh my gosh, I'm eating really high fat. I'm doing coconut oil, coconut," and I tend to bake healthy, desserts, and I pretend like they don't have any calories, but a lot of them had coconut oil, and I learned, "Oh, wow, that's still 350 calories in this brownie, whether it's the healthy or not." I was eating beef jerky on the regular as a snack, nuts, all fine in moderation, but the amount that I was consuming was really high fat. Um, and the biggest thing is in that audit phase, I saw the scale and my inches go down in weeks of work. I think within 3 weeks, I was like, the scale is actually staying 3 pounds less." And I don't remember my measurements, but, um
So was there like as you look back at that and you think about the fact that like you really started to see some momentum just from that, was there anything that you can pinpoint that you were doing routinely that brought that about in a way that was like, "Oh, wow, this is actually lasting"? Because like you said, right out of the gate, we didn't do a lot. We didn't give you this big caloric restriction. We didn't give you a bunch of specific macros. We didn't give you a list of foods to eat on Sunday, but not on Monday. We didn't really do a lot in that instance. So was there anything that you were routinely doing in your day-to-day habits that you pick up on not having had done prior to that that really brought about that initial change?
yeah, I think the biggest change was going from protein bar every single day between lunch and dinner. I would have a protein bar. I had them at my desk at work, in my car, and instead, I was doing actual food and and meat, and I think you sent me a document on different proteins and carbs, and instead I was eating those most bars are 270 plus calories. I'd be hungry by dinner, and instead I was replacing that with actual veggies, with meat, and was satiated between meals. Um, I think that happened really quickly where I learned that that was a better option.
The other thing that I remember about you is so we while that worked, you were like, number one, you were really excited, which made me excited for you. Number
Mhm.
two, you were um, really zealous to learn more. Like you really just were like absorbing the information, really wanting to learn more. So we didn't like, even though the initial phase with the audit, and we kind of said, let's not change anything, too aggressively yet. Then you move into the goal phase, which is where the bulk of the work is done. You wanted to dive deeper, so we did. What part of the goal phase to you stands out as most memorable? Like, what are some of the little nutrition things that we discussed on a pretty regular basis that you remember thinking, "Oh, I had no idea," and also made a pretty significant change for and in you?
Yeah. So, I have to preface with I feel like I have led this healthy lifestyle. Like, I would have been like, I know nutrition. I've got this. I understand healthy eating. And I feel like for me, it was learning those, like, what is high in fat. You taught me that I did not know that 1 gram of fat is 9 calories, where carbs and protein are 4 calories each. So your calories get quickly eaten up when you have something that is high fat. I feel like do one of the other like basics was splitting my calories through the day. So I was eat a little. I did not know this until I actually tracked it, but my breakfast would be 300 calories. I'd be hungry at 10 a.m. I would have another snack. Then I would eat lunch, and then I'd have another. I had boys toddlers. So I was like on their after school snack schedule, have my protein bar, and then still barely make it to dinner. And as soon as I really adjusted, and by splits is like really evening out those calories. I think you gave me the option of you can do 700, I don't know, probably 600 calories a meal or, 500 with the 300 snack. Um, and that just balancing that out made my appetite level out. I wasn't hungry all the time.
You've referenced your boys a couple of times. Was it hard to do this while knowing, I guess, two parts? Was it hard to implement some of the strategies that we would talk about because of the time demand? Because your boys are about the age of ours, which just require a ton of attention and time. And like it's just basics too. Like they don't cook for themselves and they need help taking a bath and they come home from school and they
Right.
just need more at that age. Were the things that we were doing to help you change your nutrition, keep tabs on those nutrition, challenging to do while balancing all that you were balancing between work and family life, etc.? Part two of that would be, was it difficult to know the diet of two young boys and what they enjoy eating versus what you were trying to stick to?
Yeah. Um, wait, the first question was.
Like
Oh, yeah.
we did have you track, right? We did. There
Yeah.
were some daily things that you were, keeping tabs on as a part of the weekly whole to make any adjustments that we needed to. And I think in a lot of people's minds, those are so time demanding that they're not even open to the thought of doing it. And did you find that? Because no, I don't. I personally, I mean, my wife is in the same demographic as you, and I personally don't know anyone who is busier than a working mom of two young kids.
Yes. The it was difficult to and overwhelming, but that's where you came in and helped me meal plan. And I think you had said every Sunday, this is what, just having one day a week that this is what you'd make. And so I would do Sunday afternoon, go run around in the mountains in the morning, and then come home and make my lunches, especially. I will pack all of my boys' lunches and then come to work and starve, or just kind of piece something together. Um, so that was huge, is getting in that habit of having the dinner. I would have one dinner, but definitely my lunches were prepped and ready to go for the week, so I didn't have to think about it. It made it was easy at that point. It went from overwhelming to, "I can do this." I just grab it and go. So that's just another habit that you helped hold me accountable to do. I mean, for this to be successful, I feel like that habit would really have to be in place with children and the craziness of life. Um, when it came to how I eat, I didn't change much for the kids and the family. But the one thing that I really didn't do was the little snacks that they would have. Mine would be different. But I also learned the big picture through all of this was learning. I ate pizza. I ate ice cream. If they want to go to ice cream, and sometimes it was, I know tonight we're going out to eat or celebrating and having cake. So I plan my breakfast and my lunch accordingly. Um, and if they wanted ice cream after school, I would then plan my dinner accordingly. Maybe have less carbs or a lot of, or fat with my dinner. So most of the time it didn't feel hard. It was just stopping the habit of snacking on the little cheese puffs that they eat after school and not counting it as calories.
Yeah, it's interesting, like, for me to hear you say some of this because I think about work that we have done with kids, even when I was at the hospital, you would have parents who would be really frustrated because the kids wouldn't eat dinner. And you'd sit down with them and you'd find there's all these activities that they're involved in. And so they're just giving a kid a baggie of something between these runs. And, it was what was happening was their appetite was being pacified with these little snacks so that when it came time for dinner, not only would they maybe not want anything, but they might take a few bites and then leave the rest of it. So the parents were getting mad that, they're getting upset that the kids was wasting food. How do I get my kid to eat? And it would always be a bit of shock and awe when I'd say, "You need to quit feeding them these snacks." I mean, give them the opportunity to develop some hunger, and don't
Mhm.
every time they say, "Oh, I'm hungry," throw this bag of cheese puffs at them, or throw this bag of yogurt raisins at them, or this organic applesauce pouch. Like, that is genuinely diminishing their appetite, and so they're not eating good meals. Let them get hungry, and if that happens, they will eat an entire dinner and usually what you make, even if they don't necessarily like it.
Yes.
And we're no different, and
Yep.
we're
Great way to put
busy.
it.
Yeah, we're busy. We eat these little bitty things that are quick during the day. And then we're shocked when we get home and we're just like so hungry that we can hardly wait to throw down tortilla chips and hummus or whatever. And then we eat dinner and then we want to eat later on as well. And if you can get that even distribution and you can get, a decent split or composition of what your meal is made up of, where there's some protein and other things in there that give you the chance to feel full, the whole day tends to go better. So, yeah, I mean, as you can tell, like a lot of the information wasn't earth-shattering news to you, but it was good reminders and different strategies and tips, and that's one part of it, but then the person has to go do that, and you did, you always made the time to do it. The other thing that I remember really well is some real apprehension to go into what we call a maintenance phase, which is essentially an increase in calories. And I understand why. You just worked so hard to get to a place that you were happy at and felt better at, as everyone does. And so the idea of then going in the opposite direction always sparks a little fear in people. What
Mhm.
was your concern going into that? And then what did you find as we started to toe into that?
I was so nervous to go into maintenance. Um, I was afraid I was gonna go back to tracking was keep you were holding me accountable, tracking was keeping me accountable, and so I was just afraid I was gonna revert to, like, "Oh, if I have this little snack with my boys and don't track it, it's not calories. It's 0. It doesn't count." And I think we were touching base less and less at that point. I needed to grow my wings and fly, and I think I tracked for maybe 2 more months after I was in maintenance. Nothing changed. I feel like my weight was more stable. I would do my measurements. They didn't change, and I feel like it was a busy season, a busy week, and I slowly went away from it, and, I've been great. I've been maintaining. I feel like now it's just, like, there are still composition changes happening, but nothing scale and nothing else is changing, which I think a lot of women have that tie to the scale, and I definitely did, and I feel like that was just a added bonus that you really helped support in tearing that down, where I was measuring and the scale wouldn't move, and but my measurements were to the point, and now I was jumping on the scale, like, once a week, and just haven't, and I am really so much more confident in how I feel and how my clothes feel, and being able to carry on without that in the back of my head. It's totally broke my whole brain on my relationship with the scale in a really good way.
Yeah, I mean, I am so happy for that for you, and mean, that entire iterative process that you just described is exactly how it should work in any program, which is, yes, as time goes on, you give that person confidence by checking in less frequently with them. You're still providing, the support piece of it, but as time goes on, you rely less on the tracker and you weigh less and you go more on how you feel. And, it's those like it's designed to be it should be designed to be any program should be designed to be that you are helping a person through intentional choice develop habit. And once the habit is established and rooted, it's almost harder to go back to what she used to do than
Right.
what you start doing.
Yeah. Like, I
And
now know what I know, and I can't undo that.
yes. And because you learned a healthy way to go about it, like how to incorporate pizza with your kids, how to also know how to offset that with other meals. It feels, I think, more sustainable to you too, and that's the other goal as well. So, yeah, when you went into maintenance, I remember you emailing, if I remember right, and you started seeing, even more favorable composition changes, inches dropped more, and as we increased the calories up, and then, of course, you are now where you are now. A This is kind of let me think about what do they call this? They call it a rapid fire, right? So,
Mhm.
like, usually there's rapid fire or they'll call it like this is this or that or whatever, but I'd be curious. The a rapid fire nutrition edition for Becky.
Yep.
The If there's one non-negotiable for you from a nutrition standpoint that is happening every day, what is it? If you can't do, check all the boxes, but there's one you're definitely doing, what's top of your mind?
Nutritional protein. Getting
Yeah,
your
bro. What is the number one tool that you leaned on throughout the process and even still today sometimes?
I can't in one word, but it's that balance, like that full big picture, being able to balance. No foods are good or bad. Eat it all in the moderation of balancing those meals out. Does that make sense?
It does, perfect.
Um,
What is your go-to strategy to make sure that you're meeting your protein needs? Because that's often something some people struggle with.
Food prep and egg
What
whites, everything.
favorite dessert?
Oh, cookies,
Favorite meal?
dinner,
What's your favorite dinner, like, meal, food, recipe?
um, a steak and sweet potato,
Perfect.
ribeye and sweet potato.
Anything you wanna leave people with, like, if, maybe someone felt like you, is in the middle of it like you, anything like that, what advice or information or encouragement would you give them?
Um, I think just learning how to fuel your body before you give up, before you think something's wrong or this is the way it has to be. Um, it's really supportive for the rest of your life. I just think also tuning out the noise online, um, and really getting a coach who can support you, break things down, keep it simple is something that you'll be able to use it for the rest of your life. It's so worth the investment.
It's awesome. If people Are you okay with people reaching out to you if they want to?
Yeah,
Where
yeah.
would be a good place for them to find you?
Um, my email address is is that fine?
And yeah, I'll add that in the show notes so you don't have to broadcast it
Yeah.
all over the internet. And
Okay, good call.
do you still have, like, a social media account
Y
of any kind?
Yes.
Or we can link that too.
Okay. Perfect.
That way if, yeah, if people wanna get a hold of you. So thank you for coming on and just being up for sharing it. Like I said, I knew the whole entirety of your story, and I also get the opportunity to talk to so many people who fall into basically exactly the way that you felt. And I just think it's always good to give someone an example of someone who's done it, who's been there and who's done it. And it seems like as we gain the ability for everyone to broadcast themselves live, their thoughts and opinions. Those get tougher and tougher to decipher in terms of you get anyone and everyone online saying that all of these things are going to kill you or hurt you, or if you're in this state or of this age or this condition, that you're pretty much, never going to be able to accomplish this without something radical. And you are the prime example as to where that's not true.
You
And
don't have to feel stuck.
thank you for coming on and sharing. I think it'll be a huge help to other people.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Big thank you to Becki for jumping on and sharing some of that and giving us some of her insights and some of the things that she did and struggled with and parts that she had found easy, and what's even been easy for her or difficult for her in maintenance since that point. So hopefully it was helpful to you. If you've got any questions for her, you can reach out. Anything that we talked about in the show is linked in the show notes. We want to say thanks to you for listening. We're quickly growing towards almost like 100,000 downloads since we'd started this, which is pretty dang neat. And hopefully you guys have found it to be just a reliable source of good nutrition information and things that you can take away from every episode and go use and apply in your own life, and not have to wonder whether or not it's quality information or just a guy down the block. But thank you for listening. You can rank the show. You can send it to a friend. You can leave us a comment that, as you hear on probably every podcast, helps immensely, but it truly does. We've got exciting podcast episodes coming up. If you have any questions or topics that you want us to cover, you can email us at info@b2pnutrition.com, and we would love to cover those. Have a great week, everyone.